Hey everybody, I'm Phillip,
And I'm Justin.
and together we are Pajamas. And we just watched episode 6 of season 1 of Loki, the final episode of the season. We got a lot of talking, a lot of exposition and
Yes.
whatnot. We found out what's going on, why it's going on, and yeah. So what did you think?
I found it very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It basically was an episode of the old debate of determinism versus free will.
Which also came back full circle because of episode 1. We talked about Loki's inability to, understand that he was destined to do this thing. He didn't have the free will, his glorious purpose.
Yes, that it's a question of perception.
Mm-hmm.
That one does deal with decisions, but looking at a timeline, if you know the timeline, then are the things in that timeline really doing what they're doing? Sort of like an observation versus perception,
Mm-hmm.
which lies at the very core of the debate.
Especially at the end there with Loki and Sylvie. Loki was observing. Sylvie was just perceiving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she got super freaking annoying in that last 5 minutes or so.
I assumed that she would have been more tactical than that.
They went full Rose from Doctor Who with her all emotions, all impulse, no cognitive abilities. Loki went all Martha. Was trying to think it through.
She had dedicated her whole life, many years,
Mm-hmm.
for this. I think that she would have at least been a little wiser now that she was finally at the end.
I think the whole you just want the throne thing to Loki was the tipping point for me. I'm like, okay, now you're just being stupid. You're just being stupid.
It's as if she forgot everything that they went through together as...
Well, like he said, she can't trust, he can't be trusted. But then that should have been her wake-up call then, like, he's admitting this. And I just found her completely insufferable. That entire exchange back and forth as they were fighting. It was just like, stop being stupid. Like, yeah, she was, again, run on emotions, and this was her, life's work right in front of her. But she just blind rage, I guess. And she just doomed everyone.
Oh, everyone and everything.
Yeah.
We're talking about multi-universes.
Yeah, and...
Which, if what was said was true, will inevitably actually go back to the same thing that it was before, so
exactly.
Why fight it if it's all going to happen all over again?
Like he said, see you soon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which was it just made it more annoying that she was doing that, because it's like, you're not solving anything. Yeah, you're delaying the inevitable. Any goodwill Sylvie had evaporated. You don't have to kill her or harm her, Loki, but choke her out. Put her down for a little bit. Because she's being stupid and annoying. It's like, just listen. Just listen. You want the throne. No, just listen. I knew I can trust you because you won't fucking listen. Like Loki was saying, he could be lying. What if he's not? It's like,
they don't know.
Yeah, and he offered them the best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
He steps down, they take over, and even said together, the two of you. So she's like, you want the throne. He said, both of you, fucking listen, Sylvie. She was just obnoxious, really obnoxious.
That actually is basically what her character was in this thing.
Oh, so irritating. It was so irritating. If I could bang my head against something, I would.
And now, not only are there many different timelines, there are now more different time managements.
There's now more time wars coming.
Yes.
Yeah, because the main, I'll just call him the timekeeper. I don't know what to call him. The timekeeper guy.
Basically, how he was described, the one who remains, and knowing everything and seeing everything, basically he's what could be called God.
For all intents and purposes, yeah.
That basically that's what he is, and that's what the Lokis were eventually walking up to. Stepping out of space and time, he who remains. Well,
Yeah.
That sounds very much like some sort of ultimate being, which would be, in essence, God. but it actually turns out to be a scientist who, well, actually did what could be considered the most ethical thing to do, which was to stop his other ones from destroying the universe by making sure that the chaos and catastrophe never happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
just preserving his timeline.
yes, which is selfish, yes, but then again, and also manipulating other people's lives. What are their excuses? Because they, as Lokis, they do that.
Yeah.
They get what they want. They deceive people to get something in because there's something that they want in return.
Yeah, but in Sylvie's case, she was on a righteous mission in her mind of revenge. Whereas like Loki, yeah, he was all about manipulating and whatever and all that stuff. But I give her a little more of a pass because she was on a singular focused objective.
Which did end up getting the best of her.
Yeah, because she got really, really dumb. I'm sure you can defend it. I understand that point of view. I just think that the way they wrote it in the narrative didn't make sense for her to keep on the way she did. Like, yes, she wanted revenge. Yes, she wanted to kill him. But now in season 2, episode 1, are we going to have like an I'm sorry I fucked up meeting between her and Loki? Or she's still going to be so like self-righteous about her mission that she's going to be like, well, I did the right thing. And now there's all these wars coming. And there are multiple versions of the Timekeeper now all fighting each other across multiple universes.
And they will continue to until the strongest one wins.
Exactly. And then...
and the whole thing starts over again.
Exactly. Thus negating everything she did. She didn't solve anything. She didn't do anything. Just like, oh my God.
Basically delaying the inevitable. Having it stretch out further.
Yeah, I don't know. And I do find it interesting after I went on my various mythology rants earlier in the episode, in earlier episodes, that the being perceived as God of everything is in fact a scientist.
Yes.
I would love if the people who believe in their modern day mythologies all of a sudden found out that their God was in fact a man of science. And science and knowledge got them to where they are and their position. Just to see the gears behind their eyes stop. Can you imagine any people in their modern day sanctimonious, holier than thou mythologies coming to terms with that their God is in fact a person of science, a scientist who used their knowledge and intellect to attain that position? They would cry heresy to their own God. They would, like absolutely would, and that's a fascinating thing to think about. This paradox that they have to figure out a way to like use their cognitive dissonance to make it all make sense and still hate anyone who isn't them in the name of he had a cloud monster, so he lived in the clouds.
That is indeed interesting.
It's cool that he found Goliath like from all these time things happening, and then he like weaponized it, and that's what he used to win.
Yes,
I like that.
Harness the power of whatever it is that gives you an advantage and use it.
Because this can just devour time, and it's pretty cool. I like that.
Literally.
Yeah, it's cool.
Even though I don't endorse kidnapping, it does give a reason of why people were taken out of timelines to keep control of the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
He had to get people to do the little bits of work. And
right.
well, thus he needs more people, but where do they come from? Well, he cannot simply poof them into existence. He needs to get them from somewhere.
Yeah.
And although, yes, it was for the sake of ultimate cosmic peace, it was still nevertheless kidnapping. And then he could have simply have told them this story, and it could have still worked as a business.
Speaking of people that were kidnapped, I like how Soldier Lady took one of her guard people to the past where Judge Renslayer, I think her name is, where she came from, to show them that, yeah, they in fact were kid. I thought it was a clever way to do it.
It was possibly the only way because she could say it, but there's a possibility that they wouldn't have believed her. So She actually had to show
Yeah.
them.
So I like that. Pretty much, I liked everything except for the parts at the end with Sylvie. Because it opened up. They go to the Citadel at the end of time and meet the timekeeper, and he monologues for a long time. We have the Lokis with him, and then on the other branch we have Renslayer with Mobius, and these two, he's trying to talk sense into her. She won't listen. She won't listen.
Yes, in the case of the judge, though, she basically sides with Plato on the notion of the noble lie, in which if a lie were something that actually kept everything together and kept something worse from happening, would that then paradoxically make the lie a good thing, despite that dishonesty is a vice? That seemed to be basically what I saw was going on between them, that basically they were going over the noble lie. Is it noble, or is it too much of an oxymoron?
That really adequately describes what she was going through. On paper, it does look like a noble lie. It doesn't feel like an oxymoron, because everything that he was saying is coming to fruition. Everything's split. As we said, the inevitability of him returning. She accomplished nothing in the end.
And this whole time he knew that they were coming. He even showed them the transcripts.
Yeah, the script of them coming, yeah.
Yes, with the exact words that they used. So he very likely inevitably saw this coming, and thus he knew that, that he would likely meet his fate so that he could be born again and do all of this again. It was actually surprising. I wasn't expecting that to happen. The ultimate timekeeper, that it was him.
Towards the beginning, when we see him, he says, "Don't tell me I'm a disappointment." I'm kind of like, well,
one thing that I was suspecting, the clock thing, that I was wondering, what if it's actually the timekeeper, hidden in plain sight? That's one that
I thought it was going to be Doctor Strange. It makes it even more kind of profound. It's just a random guy who scientifically figured out how to do everything, as we've discussed already. And it's just some random dude who is kind of off his rocker.
You sort of have to be to go through and do all of this
by yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Little cabin fever, I think. So at first I was kind of like, but the actor did a good job, I think, with the role and portraying that kind of unbalanced balance. Because he had to balance everything, but he himself was just like, seeing real people for the first time in who knows how long? Heck yeah, you'd be excited. And the explanation made sense. So while I was at first a little like, it didn't end up being like a Kylo Ren situation where I thought the reveal sucked and the characters sucked, and then by the end of it, I still thought that the reveal sucked and the characters sucked. As the scene started going, I started getting a feel for the character. I was like, okay, and I can.
The monologues really helped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, like just the delivery and the way he played it was well done, and just also almost like smug giddiness.
It was profound in its own way, in which everyone is expecting something very intimidating.
Yeah,
and
it's just a man behind the curtain.
Hello, come in.
Yeah. Which makes sense to the Wizard of Oz analogy we had. We're expecting this grand thing, and it's just a guy.
Yes.
Behind the curtain.
Except that at least this time he knows what he's doing.
That is true, yeah.
A balloonist who doesn't even know how a balloon works.
It's another discussion for another day.
On the image of him being like a god, you saw that he was eating an apple.
Yeah.
Which reminded me of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's basically what they're coming to for knowledge.
Yeah.
And this knowledge, you may like it, you may not like it. It could be for the good of the universe. It could be for the destruction of the universe. But here you go.
Yeah, true.
Which is what I saw, basically what they were trying to do with him eating an apple.
Yeah.
That it was, in a way, sort of doing a Marvel version of the temptation at the tree.
Yeah, I can see that.
Phillip's notes.
when they were on their way to see the timekeeper, and Ms. Minutes pops up the little clock. It makes them an offer. Tells Loki that he can kill Thanos, have the Infinity Gauntlet, and have the throne of Asgard. And then he tells Sylvie a lifetime of happy memories. It's like if the offer's too good to be true, it's because it is.
So far, they haven't been able to really trust anybody in connection with the timeline. So what would make this one an excuse? How do they know whether or not this is a trap?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah.
Well, they don't.
Well, it felt like one just because it was like, I'm going to give you everything you want. Go away. We touched on this earlier, but I like the line where the timekeeper said, you thought that you went through the TVA and to the purgatory place and getting past the Cerberus and getting here was all this grand like adventure and, you know, just this thing you're doing. And he says, no, every step I paved the road for you. And I was just like, oh, that's such a good line.
Cause and effect.
Yeah.
That's basically, if the concept of cause and effect were a living being, it would basically say that. The judge did sort of make a good point that actually he was more of a traitor to their relationship than she was, because, well, she had done everything that she did simply to try to salvage what they had, and he didn't seem to take that at all seriously.
I don't think I can really side with her on that one. And then the idea of them being pretty much was a rock and a hard place. It was stifling order versus like cataclysmic chaos. That was a really good way to put it. Really good way to put it. And then at the end, Sylvie and her grand stupidity opens up a portal, kicks Loki through it, kills the timekeeper. Loki is sitting there distraught, and then he gets some resolve, determination, gets up, walks down the hall. People are running because they're freaking out because the timelines are going everywhere. Runs up to I think it was Soldier Lady and Mobius. I know what's going on. You know, she did it or whatever. We need to figure this out. Here's what's going on. Here's what happened. And they're like, who are you? And then we get that beautiful pan. And we see, instead of the timekeeper's statue, we see one statue of the timekeeper. So he's in a different reality. She made the portal and like pushed him into a completely separate reality. And this is who they worship. This is their timeline. Very interesting. Very interesting. I was like, ooh, okay. Like, even if I wasn't on board with how things went down, I like me a good twist. And that was a nice one. That was a nice one.
Yes, since everything was branching off, well, it would seem as if it would make sense that there would be more than one of them.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was cool that, you know, she sent him to somewhere else completely. And then we get a mid-credit scene saying Loki will come back in season 2. So that will be coming. And that is all for my notes. Everything else are for my patrons over on Patreon.
I would hope that Loki would come back for season 2 of Loki. Would you?
Loki, yes. Sylvie, no. Even though I think it took like 3 or 4 weeks to watch this with what time we had. But story went by very fast. It was all right. So it'd be very intriguing to see where they go in season 2. Because obviously now it's going to be like all these wars, and Loki's pretty much in enemy territory, kind of.
Yes, because if it isn't his, then that means that this is another Loki's time.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. And Sylvie's still there. She could just take the throne, realistically, but she's not going to want to, because she wants everyone to have free will, because she didn't have that. She's, as far as we know, she's still in the Citadel. She's still there. So, yeah. We'll just have to wait and see what happens when it occurs. All right, is there anything else you'd like to add about this episode of Loki?
No.
Alrighty. Well, it's going to wrap up this episode. As always, I don't have a fancy outro, so I'll simply say thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.